Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. I am Felrus, thank you for joining me to play some Raid Shadow Legends today. Guys, today we are going to be talking about multipliers. This can be tough, this can be confusing, but it will ultimately change your raid experience if you know what your multipliers are and how to prioritize them. So, what are we going to be examining today? Well, I have some champions, alright? And all my champions do different stuff. Calamitous, nukes. Heraclides, nukes. Visix, controls. Arbiter, controls. Contra, puts out some rather odd and inconsistent, but still necessary debuffs, right? Bod Alcazar, heals, right? Prince Kymar resets all my cooldowns. I have a lot of different champions, and I want to know which of them are going to be my damage dealers. So I go ahead and I pop over to the Hell Hades website and I look at multipliers. So let's discuss what a multiplier is. I have Thor here. We have a couple champions that we're going to go over, but I have Thor here. All right, and he is a attack-based champion because all his damage is based on attack, and that's what a multiplier is. A multiplier gives you your base damage relative to your attack. Right, okay, so let's pop back over and take a look at my Thor here. What is his attack? He's got 4.7k attack. 4,700 attack, to be exact, right? So that the decimal does not surprise us. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to take his attack stat and multiply it by whatever the multiplier is. So 4,700 times 1.9. And that means that each normal hit that he puts out will give us 8,900 damage, okay? Each normal hit that Thor puts out will be 8,900 damage. Okay, so say on his A1 specifically, and it's a double hitter, so we'll say 8,900 plus 8,900 will give us about 17.8k, 17,800 damage. That's just assuming that it doesn't repeat, right? Now we'll take the A2, Voluminous Ricochet. He has 4,700 attack. The multiplier is a times 5 multiplier, so we'll do 4,700 times 5 for each normal hit, giving us 23,500 damage. And of course, we can do the same thing for the A3 here, which has a 4 times multiplier, and we can go 4,700 times 4 so that each normal hit gives us 18,800 damage. Okay, well, that's normal hits though, right? Well, of course we can do the same thing for the passive, but this is enough to go on. Okay, so that's normal hits. What about critical hits, right? So in Raid, there's a stat called crit rate, okay? And crit rate is the percentage of hits that your champion will inflict that are critical hits, okay? Critical hits, at 100% crit rate, your champion is always going to inflict a critical hit. And whenever a champion inflicts a critical hit, they will do whatever their attack multiplier is times the crit damage, okay? So we've got 4,700 attack here, okay? Our crit damage, because Thor is always going to crit, it's almost 300% crit damage, okay? So we'll take this Voluminous Ricochet here. So 4,700 times 5 gives us 23,500. We just did the math. Okay, now his crit damage is 297%. So we're going to multiply the 23,500 damage that he does by 2.97, and that will give us 69,700 damage, almost 69,800 damage per hit with the Voluminous Ricochet, okay? And that's just the first hit because this one has a weird thing where it ramps with every hit. So the first hit will be almost 69,800 damage, okay? We can do the same thing with the A2 here. So the A2 here has a 4 times attack, so 4,700, which is our attack stat, times the multiplier, times your percentage of crit damage, so 2.97 in this case, will give us 55,800 damage with the Hammer of Heaven. Now that's without defense being factored in. So with defense, it'll hit for more like 50,000. But without defense, pure damage, it will deal 55,800 damage. Okay. We're not going to talk about defense. We're just going to talk about the multipliers, right? You can upgrade your area bonuses, put them in savage gear, put them in cruel gear, whatever you need to do in order to get your damage up there. All right, so let's talk about someone who, okay, you don't want necessarily a lot of crit damage on, but you may want some crit rate on. Thor is obviously a very good example. He's putting out quite good numbers here with decently low attack. But maybe there's someone that you want crit rate on and not crit damage on, right? Someone whose main priority isn't to be a nuker, isn't to have those crazy numbers like, Thor, but they do decent damage. And a very good example of this is Mithrala Lifebane. We all know her. Most of us have her. Mithrala Lifebane has good multipliers. She has a 2 multiplier on her A1, which hits twice at random, and a 4 multiplier on her defense. However, because of her passive, you want to prioritize speed and accuracy on this champion, not damage. You're not going to try to build for defense, crit rate, and crit damage, and accuracy, and resistance, and HP, and all the rest. You're not going to do that. You do not want to build Mithrala with every stat. But if you can manage to crit cap her and focus on the other stats, you can get some value from her good multipliers. And, and you will still be able to build her with the proper accuracy that she needs to land her debuffs and resist things. So Mithrala is a very good example of someone who you want crit rate on, but not necessarily crit damage. Her multipliers are good. You know, she has a 4 times defense multiplier on her A2. Her multipliers are very good, but her role is not to deal damage. So if you can manage to squeeze some crit rate out, that's great. But otherwise, you're not too fussed about her dealing damage, right? So you really want to take a look at the champion's whole kit and then their multipliers to figure out who you want dealing damage and if you want someone to crit but not necessarily be a nuker, right? So someone who you don't want to crit. I have seen Prince Kymar crit a few times, but Prince Kymar here is someone who does not have the multipliers for a nuker, okay? He has all AoEs. His A1 has a 3 times attack, and his A2 has a 3.6 attack. So let's go ahead and take a look at my Kymar here. And we can see how much damage he's going to do compared to someone like Thor, okay? So my Kymar has 2,000 attack, okay? But let's just say that he had 4.7k attack. The same as Thor, okay? Let's just put him and Thor on the same level. All right, so he has 4,700 attack. We'll do a realistic analysis as well here. And the multiplier is 3, so I multiply that by 3. He'll hit for about 14,000 damage on everyone on his A1. That's not terrible. Now, if I multiply that by Thor's crit damage, again, we're just putting Kymar and Thor's gear here, he is going to only do 41,800 damage versus Thor, who's putting out quite a bit more. I think we were at like 55,800 damage. All right, so he's not going to hit as much as Thor, and most tanky champions are going to have more than 41,800 HP, both in PvE and in Arena. So, you know, you put Prince Kymar with good attack and very good crit damage, and he's not going to do as much for you. Okay? Now, let's just say that we do it with his actual stats, okay? So, Kymar has 2,000 attack on my account. He's got a 3 times multiplier. 2,000 times 3 is 6,000. Okay, he's going to do 6,000 damage on a normal hit, which is significantly less than Thor. You can see how the attack stat makes a massive difference. Each 1,000, each 100 makes a massive difference in how much damage a champion is doing. So finally, we're going to take a look at someone like Holzring. And now Holzring is weird because he has double hits and triple hits everywhere. I have a Holzring here. Well, I'll show you my Holzring. Here he is, just above Kymar. My Holzring has a 3.4k attack, okay? Now he's got a 1.95 attack multiplier on his A2, which is his hardest hitting skill. So, we are going to do 3.4, so 3,400 times 1.95, and then he does that 3 times, so times 3. And that means that this skill, all the hits on a normal hit is going to be 19,890, right? That's how much damage it's going to put out. So then I have decent crit rate on Holzring as well, right? He's crit capped. He's got 211% crit rate. So we can multiply that damage output by 2.11 to get us 41,967 damage. Now that may not seem like a lot, right? I just dissed Kymar for this, right? Well, he has a built-in to ignore defense, right? He can ignore 50% defense. Now, I'm not entirely sure what the math is for how much defense scales and negates how much damage, but the ignore defense gives you quite a significant damage buff, to the point where this each hit of this overthrow ability will deal about 30k for me in Hydra, which is where I use him. So, is Holzring any good? Well, you may take a look at his multipliers and be like, no, he's not good. He's like Kymar. But he has a 1.95 attack multiplier. Not necessarily super impressive, but he ignores defense. And so you have to take that into consideration. You also have to take into consideration that Kymar was doing that 41,000 damage with almost 300 crit damage, whereas Holzring is doing the same damage with just over 200% crit damage. So your multipliers here are going to determine who you build as a nuker, who you don't build as a nuker, and what champions are your priority to build as a nuker. So guys, thank you for watching the video. If this was helpful, please leave a like and a subscribe. Of course, my links to Discord and the Patreon are all in the description below, so if you can help out the channel, that would be absolutely wonderful. I hope this was helpful. Please comment any questions you have down below. Check out Hell Hades' website. Hell Hades is a great content creator. His website is very helpful to all of us. Thank you for watching. I have been Felrus, and I will see you in another video.